Welcome to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast with your host, legendary powerlifter and strength athlete, Chad Ikes. For most, the journey of strength starts in the gym, but should inevitably expand through all aspects of life. Join us as we discuss all things strength. Now, here's your host, Chad Ikes.
Hey everybody, today we got a great episode coming up. Somebody I've been wanting to talk to for a while, and actually when I was coming out, you were kind of coming up, but I swear we were at the same meet a few times. But you know, you never get to talk to the people at meet. So basically I'm here with Luke Edwards, unbelievable lifter, just a general badass. And in this day and time, I love talking to other badasses because I just think we're missing that big time in this country or this world. And so I'm not even going to say none of your numbers. I'm going to let you say that. Your best lifts, because I they're all pretty huge.
Yeah. My best was 1025 squat at 242, 700 bench at 275, and 840 deadlift at 275. Best total was like 2480-ish, something like that. 2470, something like that.
And when did you first start powerlifting?
So like I started out in bodybuilding. I was a huge bodybuilding fan, had that base or whatever. And then I was helping one of my friends do a bodybuilding show, and like he should have won the show or whatever, and he didn't. And then I was like, you know what? I was a wrestler growing up, so it's like powerlifting's kind of like wrestling, like there's a little bit of politics, but you either get the weight or you don't. In wrestling, you either take the guy down or you don't. So I was just like, and I had already been pretty strong, and people had told me to start competing, look into it. So yeah, that's kind of how I got the bug. I did my first powerlifting meet. I was in high school, 14, and cutting for cutting for wrestling. But when I became an actual lifter, I was 24 when I started competing as an adult.
Interesting, because I started powerlifting at 27.
27, yeah.
And actually, I actually think that's a good thing for me because I had a little bit of time to mature and not be so stupid. Although I still did a lot of stupid stuff. So what did you lift when you were 14? Do you remember?
I don't remember the squat or bench exactly, but I remember I pulled 400 weighing like 165.
Damn, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it took me like another 12 years to add 400 to that. So it took a while.
And you've competed in didn't you start at like 220 or something like 198s and then went up to like 275s or something?
No, I actually found my home at 242 mostly, 275, 308. And then after my second kidney transplant, I went 220s and then 198. So I kind of did it backwards where most people, do their thing.
So I have one of my clients, I was telling him I'm interviewing you, and I got one question about volume, but we'll catch that later. And he's like, Luke's such a badass. He's like, I think Luke put up his highest total after one of his kidney transplants.
No.
That's not true?
No, that's not true.
But I do know that during that you trained like pretty much through all of that.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I did train through dialysis. I competed on dialysis. Actually took won the meet, beat like 26 people, like best lifter or whatever on dialysis. So I thought that was kind of cool, like being able to win a meet on dialysis.
Yeah, because you hear, my dad's had 3 cancers, so he wasn't on dialysis, but all that other shit's crazy. It just taxes the crap out of your body.
Right.
So to actually still come and compete and still continue to train.
Yeah.
And do you think, I was thinking about this today earlier, I know there's probably people that would think, okay, why does his kidneys, get fucked up to begin with?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's people out there that are going to jump to steroids and other stuff. But what you actually have is something you were born with genetically.
I was born with.
Do you think the fact that you trained so hard and that actually kind of helped you in a way to get through this and be able to deal with this?
It kept me alive, yeah.
Yeah, when most people are caving over from dialysis and they're not doing anything, you're still training and staying in shape and still keeping, your muscle mass on to some extent and staying strong.
Yeah, I was still a corrections officer too. When I first started dialysis, I had my port in my thing, so I would duct tape it down so none of the inmates could see it.
Right.
Yeah, so I worked full time corrections officer, and then would do dialysis 3 days a week and train 4 days a week. So
that's crazy.
I kept a busy schedule.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I haven't heard. Do you need another kidney?
No,
now?
I actually I had my third kidney transplant. I'm going on. It'll be a year, August 25th. So I'm going on about 10 months, a little over 10 months. And yeah, man, my health feels great. Like I feel wonderful. I've had the best labs that I've ever had. Even with the first 2 kidney transplants, my labs weren't that good. So yeah, I feel really good. I've been able to get back in a little bit of shape and being able to train, and yeah, I feel blessed,
So with the other ones that didn't take, do they feel like this one you should be good? I mean, do you have to be on anti-rejection meds and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm on the meds. The first 2 did take. The first one I had for about 2.5 years, and then the disease came back, and then the second one it took for about 3.5, and we thought that was going to be the one, and then it happens, it just happens, and went through rejection, and then this one. So far, everything's been great. Labs have been awesome. My creatinine's actually been in the ones for the first time since I've been like 17, 16. So yeah, I feel great.
That's actually interesting because I've had clients, and myself included. I actually had a doctor one time who was like, "All right, you got to go to the hospital."
Yeah,
because your creatinine level is so high, your kidneys are stopping, you're going to die. And I'm like, dude, calm down, dude. I trained really heavy before my blood work. It's always going to be a little high because I beat the crap out of myself.
Right. Yeah, that's what they thought initially when I went in. And this was way back in 2010 and kept me for like a week. And my creatinine never went down. And that's how they discovered that I was in stage 5. And they wanted to do dialysis right away, and I refused it for a year. Still competed at the Pro-Am like 2 months later, and then had my first transplant. So, I don't know if everything I've done is the smartest, but it's kind of been my way. So,
Why did you refuse the dialysis?
I really don't know. I didn't really. I mean, I needed it, but I was still making urine at the time, so I was able to keep all the fluid off me,
Right.
So I wasn't retaining water like had I been. And I knew that the living donor was in the process, so I knew I was going to have a transplant probably within a year.
Right.
So that was kind of, I don't know if it was smart or not, but that's what happened.
I asked because I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I think I probably would have been like, well, wait a minute. Do I need to do this? Like, am I getting by now? Like, why don't we wait to start this till I need to have this?
Well, I knew that it was serious because I had a real good nephrologist, kidney doc, and he called me and he starts cussing at me. And I knew that day he wasn't fucking around. So I still refused it and was transplanted. But, I knew that it was serious, but I don't know. I don't know.
So one of my big questions for you, and this is kind of what my client was like, man, he always trained with a lot of volume. And does he still think that was the best thing? And I know for me, like looking back at my career, I'm always looking at my career and trying to realize the dumb things that I did because I still want to coach new people and I want to be a better coach and I want to learn more. And I'm always looking back at what I did and go, how could I have done that better?
Yeah.
And, with my sleep and my depression and my suicide, I'm like, oh my God, like I kind of caused some of this shit because I wouldn't back off.
Yeah.
And so one of the questions was, looking back and all the volume that you did, do you still feel like that was necessary to train that way?
Well, there's two ways of looking at it, you know. In a way, yeah, because it kept me alive.
Mm-hmm.
In another way, I probably should have taken my, you know, where I was at in my health situation. But, you know, I was living my dream training at Westside Barbell.
Mm-hmm.
So you weren't going to tell me nothing because I was living. You know, a lot of people everybody dies, you know, not everybody lives. And this is what, you know, for the first couple years, it just felt like a dream in there, you know. So when I first got there, I knew I was in stage 2 kidney failure. So I already knew that, like, you know, I had a strike against me. But I wasn't going to let none of those guys know, or Louis know. Well, Louis knew, but none of the guys know to, like, want to feel sorry for me or whatever. I didn't want none of that. You know, I wanted to be treated equal, and all that other shit was excuses, you know, because all that mattered was you showing up that day and training. You know?
I wonder, because I look back and I'm actually been researching some more HIIT style stuff and how that would work with strength training.
Yeah.
Focusing more on recovery and growth.
Yeah. So, I got off topic on that. I apologize. What I would take back is not going so heavy all the time, trying to be the badass every day. So, like, you know, on speed squats, instead of, you know, working up to like 8 plates and doing work, actually doing my percentages or whatever, you know, and hauled back. But everything was just so, you know, gun ho that you didn't do that at the time. But yeah, looking back, I don't know, because I still like a lot of volume, you know. I mean, you got to train, you got to be in shape. But yeah, some of the weights, maybe not as many sets, you know, so maybe I lowered the volume a little bit.
Yeah.
But
that's
a tricky question, because it's kind of like, you know, there's two sides of the coin of that, you know, like it's like, you know, I wasn't going to be no bitch in there, you know, so, you know, so I don't regret that part. But
I kind of have that same conversation in my head, and I go, well, listen, and like, even thinking about you, I'm like, well, wait a minute, like, him training the way he did made him tough as shit, and that allowed him to get through all this other stuff.
Right.
And like, we all know that, like, there's this part about training science, which I really question, because I know at one time I'm sitting in a warm-up room at the WPO, and I'm like, all right, here's like the 20 biggest, strongest dudes in the world, and I know them all.
Yeah.
I can ask anyone questions, and I go, I'm going to come up with the greatest training program ever. And the only thing I really realized is that everybody's different and everybody does different shit. And so then my brain went, well, wait a minute, well, what's common? And it was always the mentality, and it's how they looked at shit. And so I'm like, okay, even if I do think backing off training is good, there's this part about pushing yourself to that limit and that mental strength. I mean, we all know stories. Like, I did a meet and I was up for like 10 days with no sleep, and I did that meet. Well, how the hell that wasn't training that got me there. That was like a somewhat psychotic brain that got me through that. And the only way that was developed was by pushing myself so hard all the time.
Right.
So I have this argument in my head all the time, well, what's the best way? And it's like, well, there's some sort of weird balance of pushing yourself to these crazy limits.
Yeah.
But then knowing that fine line of, okay, now I got to back off a little bit.
Yeah. I think Dave Tate said it best. Something about beginners need to learn to push harder, and veterans need to learn to pull it back some, you know, because a lot of us veterans, especially like when I was in the mix, I know, you know, we still felt like we were still, you know, needing to come up like what we used to come up, you know, all the volume and stuff, instead of just kind of, you know, keeping it at a level, even level or whatever, you know. But
yeah, I think that's like, right now I have like a lot of people I talk to want to keep training more and more and more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, but you're stronger than you've ever been.
Right.
You're probably, and some of these people, it's like, dude, you're in the top 5% of the strongest people in the world, and you still want to train more.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'm only squatting 800 pounds. That's nothing, because I'm a 1,100 pound squatter. I mean, but it's still 800 pounds on a human body that's not made to do that either.
Yeah, but you know what an addiction's like, man. You get hooked on that. You get hooked on that lifting addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, it's a hard one to let go of.
That's, I mean, even when I was training, I was known for not training as much as everyone else, which I think was what allowed me to be as strong as I was, even with my sleep and depression and shit.
Yeah.
But I look back and I pushed way too far, and I pushed myself into depression and suicide because I couldn't back off.
Yeah.
And like, that's something I want to help people go, listen, you trained your whole life. You got to this area. You've earned the right to back off a little bit and still get stronger.
Yeah.
But that was the toughest thing for me, was like not going to the gym every day. That's what I did. I loved it.
Yeah.
To this day, like right now I'm doing kind of like some HIIT training stuff. And so when I go in the gym, it's fucking berserk balls to the wall for 45 minutes. How far can I push myself? And I fucking love it. Like, people that go, I'm a badass because I pushed hard. I go, why? I love pushing myself hard. I love going to that limit where I'm about to pass the fuck out. Like, that's fun to me.
Right.
Tell me, hey, Chad, you're not recovered enough. You can't train today. And then I'm like, oh, God damn, this sucks. What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. I love that push. It's a mental push. A lot of times when I'm like with clients and stuff, I'll do stuff just to see if they'll push. Like, we'll take 10-pound ankle weights, put them on our wrist. And a couple months ago, I had them do sets of 50, but I had them do 10 sets of 50 just to see if they could do it, you know. And I mean, it was really just a mental push more than anything to see if they could take their mind there. But, you know, I love being able to push, you know, past your limit.
That was actually one of the things with the HIIT training, and I'm experimenting with some of my clients. Luckily, I convinced them that I know what I'm doing, and let's try this. But
Yeah.
I'm finding one of the benefits to those crazy sessions is they're like, no, that's it. I can't do it anymore. And I go, bullshit. Give me 2 more goddamn reps right now.
Right.
And they do it. And then afterwards, they're like, oh, my God, I didn't think I could do that. And I go,
Right.
see, you got way more than you think you got.
Right.
And that's a skill, too, to push and learn that skill.
Yeah. Yeah. The HIIT system's kind of hard to master. Like, I feel like, you know, guys like Dorian Yates, they could do that shit. That's a hard thing to do, to put the mind and the muscle for one set, you know, for one all out set. You know what I mean? Like, that's a skill you have to make or have to develop. Right.
And work really
There's
hard.
a lot of people, they can't take their mind past, you know, like 5 or 10 reps or whatever to go into that deep, you know. So it's awesome getting done in 45 minutes. That's, you know, you have 45 minutes, you're done, you know, like, I was a big fan of HIIT for a long time, and I trained it, but I couldn't have the mind muscle connection like, you know, the greats could. I just, maybe now that I'm older, I can, but I still like that volume. You know, I like to get the work in. Maybe it's old school. I don't know, but that's
I don't know. Like, I tell people all the time, I go, listen, I'm pretty confident in my theories because I spent a lot of time studying them. I spent a lot of time thinking about it. Yeah. But at the same time, I consider myself intelligent enough to go, well, wait a minute. There's a lot of other guys that were better than me or as good as me that did it different than me.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I go, this is what I want to try with you. This is where we're going to go.
Yeah.
I'm always looking at, like, if the results aren't happening, all these other guys got super strong as shit going this way. So I won't write off any program or any theory completely.
No.
And I think in the end, it kind of comes down to people learning what works for them. But at the same time, they got to be honest with themselves. And that's something I find human beings are really bad at.
Yeah.
Me included, because like when I was lifting and with my depression was a funny thing. And I was telling one of my clients this morning, I go, it was really hard for me to learn to trust my partners. But it got to the point where I would walk in and my partners are like, dude, you're fucked up. Like, you're depressed. You're not sleeping. Like, I can see it in your face. You're not training today. And like, I would fight it till the end. Bullshit. I feel fine. Fuck you. I feel great. Like, you know, and then after I matured a little bit, it's like, all right, dude, if these guys are telling me this, like, they know what they're talking about. And if I do, I could nut up and get the training done today, but what's it going to do to me?
Yeah.
And is it really going to help me lift more? Because that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
But that's,
you had the guys at Westside didn't do that shit. They let me, you know, I'd come in gray, looking, you know, yellow, you know, looking like death. Hey, let me get after it. You know, we treated Lou that way too. You know, he was 62, 65 years old, still training with us. We just treat him like another guy in a gym. You know, like that's how I wanted to be treated, though. I didn't want to be treated like, you know, whatever. But
it's tough, though. I think. I mean, okay. Let me ask you this question. Right now, if I said, "Hey, you can get stronger training 2 days a week, like equally strong to where you are now, or stronger training only 2 days a week," would you do it?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's hard. It's hard. You know, I think a lot of us, especially the guys who excelled in powerlifting, are fucked up. You know, like we have some sort of past or something, and we need to get those demons out. So training twice a week, it just don't cut it, man. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, the gym's the one place you can be as violent as possible and not go to prison. You know, like
Yes.
that's my take on it because the gym, you know, growing up and you know being in the YMCA for the whole day, you know, not wanting to go home or something. That, you know, the gym's what saved my life, really. You know, kept me from getting in trouble or kept me from, you know, whatever else. So.
Yeah, no, I see that, and that was one of my biggest challenges in reaching the level I did, was kind of finding other ways to try and deal with those demons.
Yeah.
And finding other ways. I tell people all the time, I started training recovery sessions because I had a conversation with Dave, and Dave's like, listen, you can train every day and not be one of the greatest in the world, or you can control your recovery and become one of the greatest in the world.
Right.
And I was like, fuck, that makes sense. And then I'm like, so what am I going to do? And I remember I tell people all the time, I remember talking to Dave, like, Dave, no, you don't understand. I got to train every day. And I go, right. Dave totally understands what the fucking talking about.
Right.
And so I happened to, I can't remember if I read one of Louis' things or I talked to Louis, and he had started doing like some time to work on recovery days. Yeah. And I was like, well, fuck, at least I'll be in the gym, even though it's light.
Yeah.
And I was done with that too. The first day I go, all right, I'm going to bench for 5 minutes. 120s, no problem. You know, we're like 30 seconds and I was dying. But I started doing recovery sessions because it got me, it was another day I could be in the gym.
Yeah.
And then I actually like found out like, hey, wait a minute, this shit's working. And like, this shit's working with my team. And I'm like, these is pretty fucking good. So today I still do recovery sessions today.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons was like, I got to try to get around my head and figure out how I can deal with life and people not being in the gym every day. Cause that's like, I played football in high school because I could beat the crap out of people and get my aggression out. And I actually got rewarded for it.
Exactly.
You know, and then when that ended, it was like, well, dude, I can still go to the gym and be an animal and nut. And people are like, dude, that guy's cool. Like you got respect for it. You didn't get in trouble for it.
Right. Well, I always tell people like, you know, like, what am I going to do? Start knitting, you know, like, so like,
you can knit your next squat suit.
Yeah. Something like that.
It's so interesting to me that like, and this is, my sister came up to visit me a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. And so we were messing around for a couple of days, and I go, Becky, I gotta train, man. Like I'll make it quick. It'll be like a half hour. I'm gonna go train. I'll be right back in.
Yeah.
Like I come in 2 hours later, and I look at her, and I'm like, I just shrug my shoulders, and she goes, "Yeah, that's what I thought would happen." I'm like, I can't help it. I fucking love training. Like I didn't get to train for a few days, and I'm trying to catch up.
I remember when AJ went back to his parents this past like holidays or whatever, you know, over in England. And I'm texting him. I'm like, how's it going over there? You know, whatever. He's like, it fucking sucks. I can't get to the gym or whatever. So, you know, like, yeah, I know, man. Guys like us, we need that physical outlet, man.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we're wired different. I don't know. But
I definitely think you're right with like the top strength athletes in the world. Or there's definitely something, I don't know if you want to say it's wrong, but there's definitely something different in us.
Oh, yeah.
Because why would we do that anyway? I mean, it's insane.
Right.
But I love it.
We going out for like really people don't in the real world. You're strong, but they don't really give a fuck. You know, like they don't. You know, they don't understand it. You know, like they can't wrap their head around someone benching like 6, 7, 800, 900 pounds. Anything past 225, they're just like, heck, you know. So
and we go to the gym and go, you just bench 7. That's it. You're not going to do more.
Yeah.
And then so that brings up another thing when I ended up going, all right, like my health and when I started backing off of powerlifting, I got basically my family, my teammates, like everybody pulled me to the side and they're like, Chad, you're gonna kill yourself.
Yeah.
You need to stop. None of us give a shit how strong you are.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a wake up call for me. And so then I kind of went, all right, well, that's when I went into the Highland Games for a while because I'm like, well, I'll do Highland Games and I won't train as much and I'll recover. I ended up still trying to train and doing Highland Games, which ended up not being much better for me. But it took me a long time to kind of back off. And then it gets to the point where you're like, I mean, really, you look like, I mean, there's been multiple times over the last, say, 5 to 7 years where I'm like, all right, I got to back off. Like, my depression's getting bad. I got to get better. I made promises to my family I would never get to this point again.
Yeah.
And I get to where it's like, dude, I just missed 315 on a bench.
Yeah.
And like, for me, that's like, no, like that's horrible. Like, to me, that's horrible to me. Like, my whole being is going, dude, okay, I can kind of live with not benching 900 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can live with not benching 315. Like, I'm not that fucking old yet. And so every time I build it back up, but I mean, I know right now, I don't know what you're weighing right now, but you know, you're putting up some huge numbers. And I mean, how are you dealing with all that right now?
Oh, right now I'm weighing about 215, and weights, I don't care about lifting much weight, you know, like I'm just trying to get in shape. You know, I'm just thankful to be able to lift.
Yeah.
I do a lot of accessory work, you know, a lot of rehab, prehab, you know, type stuff. You know, as far as like competing and stuff, like I have no desire to do that again. You know,
Right.
like I want to coach, and that's what I really love doing. I love seeing people. I love being able to teach and seeing people get it and start getting stronger, you know, on their own, both physically and mentally, and just see their confidence grow. And it's really cool, you know, like.
So do you ever have any struggles in the gym where you're like, fuck, God damn it. Like, I'm not what I was, or.
Well, yeah, buddy. I mean, yeah, I've had to start over several times, you know, like, I give you an example, just, since, for about past 6 months, I've been trying to, get back up doing pull-ups, you know, and, I was stuck at like 2 forever, and like, I was excited because I did like 4 or 5, like just about a couple weeks ago, you know, so, I mean, it's slowly coming, but you know, it's very frustrating to have to start all the way to the end. You know, you just talk about 315. I'm like, shit, that's a lot, man. Cause I've had to start where like starting over with the bar and stuff, you know, and shit like that more than once. And I don't know, this is probably like, if I was given 9 lives, I've used just about every one of them, you know, so starting over several times, like this time I didn't think I was going to come back. Because it was so much, like it was just so rough, the recovery from the surgery and everything. But I don't know, little by little, I was just like, you know, I'm going to do a little bit here and a little bit there. And it just became more and more. And now I train about 2 times a day, 6 times a week, you know, main lifts in the morning and accessories, and then accessories at night. And I love it. You know, I have a lot of fun doing it. And it brings back, you know, like I used to love the gym, and somewhere along the way I lost that. You know, I felt like it was a job instead of keeping that gym rat, you know, loving the gym. And somehow that, you know, that love's come back. You know, having a podcast with Greg Benora helped my mind. My good buddy Mark Coleman, like seeing his transformation and all that he's done and coming back, and he's going to fight here in October, just seeing all that, that's, you know, it's inspiring and getting me back into just training again and, you know, enjoying life. And I feel like I'm a better coach by being able to lead instead of just talk about it, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the leading. I mean, I think I'm dealing with the low back injury, but I mean, it's still training. Like I can belt squat right now, so I'm belt squatting.
Right.
And, you know, I'm still trying to push my bench and stay to a certain level. I'm trying to enjoy stuff. I love riding BMX bikes, which I sacrificed for a long time when I was powerlifting. And so I'm trying to get back doing that. But I think it's interesting what you say about the love of the gym, because I think when I was at my prime and I was pushing myself into pretty severe depression and stuff, it became a job. And it was literally about the competition and what numbers I could put up. And it is now more where it's like the other day when I went, I just kept training because I was having a good time. Right. And before I knew it, it was like, holy shit, you've been doing this for 2 hours. Like, you're good. Like, go eat something. Yeah. And I think it's really cool to have that again and to kind of try to spread that to clients.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're kind of in the same place because I always kind of coached a little bit, but it wasn't until like the last few years where I went, hey, I want to do this for a living.
Yeah.
And like really my love of training and studying training and learning as much as I can.
Yeah.
I still do, but it's like I want to do the best I can for my clients. Like I want to see my clients do awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think I find there's a lot of joy in seeing them be successful and seeing them push, and especially when they do things that they're like, I was talking to one of my clients the other day. He's like, dude, my all-time goal, lifetime goal, the reason I came to see you was because I wanted to squat 500 pounds.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just opened with 545. Yeah. He's like, it's crazy. And I go, oh yeah. I go, you're going to do 6. Like 6 is in my mind. Like fuck 5.
Right.
And it's fun to see people get to that point. And it's kind of like watching the joy that I had coming up in powerlifting, you know, and hitting PRs and stuff.
Yeah. It's like looking at it through different eyes. Like it's like for me, I started coaching about a little over a year ago. And it was like the first meet that my client went to. It was like I was seeing it through different eyes, but it was my first meet as a coach, you know. So it was like, I don't know, I still get as nervous as probably more nervous than when I was competing, you know, because I don't have any control out there, and I want them to do so good, you know. Like I believe in that in my heart, you know, like what they can do, and it's just. You know, and you only want the best for them. It's like your children or something. Yeah. Like, you know, go out and do this, but I don't want them to get hurt, or I want them to get that weight.
I get done with the meet and I'm like, dude, I'm more exhausted than doing the meet myself. Like this is fucking stressful, man.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, dude. I told you, I know you got this. I know you got this.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. That's fun, and I'm glad you're doing that too, because like one of the things I knew being a super heavyweight is like, dude, you can't be this big forever.
Right.
Like, you will die soon if you have to know that there's a place and a time to start backing off.
Yeah.
And I saw guys like Anthony Clark, O.D. Wilson, like all these big guys that died way too early. And the whole time I'm thinking, God, how much knowledge did they have that they could have passed on? And then you know, going through everything you went through, you could have not made it.
Right.
But you have... Luckily, you're this badass that just doesn't quit, and then you have all this knowledge that now you can pass on, and it's kind of cool to hear that you're finding the passion in that, and to keep passing it on and helping people learn, because there's a lot of shit information out there.
Yeah,
and then there's a little bit of really good information out there.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing as a coach is always willing to learn. You know, like Greg and I, we have different training philosophies, but like I'm willing to try some stuff that he's taught to me, you know, because I want to learn more. I want to be a better coach. Like my goal right now is to have my first pro. You know, I want to, you know, make a pro athlete. I want to be able to coach on pro day. And I've got a few that are close, but, you know, it's still not there yet. So, like, I'm trying to find any little thing or going back in my training books and whatever to think, like, okay, we're going to get there one way or another.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And I love, because I feel like I'm a little bit on the outside just with the way I approach training. And I always did it a little different than everyone else.
Yeah.
But I still like talking to everybody, because even when I came up, like, I may totally disagree with somebody, but a pro guy will sit down with you and you can talk about it. And you're like, yeah, I tried that. That didn't work, but you try this. And I'm like, well, anything another pro tells me, or a high level lifter that I respect, I'm going to take it in. Even if it doesn't work now, it might work at some other time in my career. It might work for somebody I'm coaching.
Right.
Like, I think it's all information that you can put in your toolbox.
Right.
And I mean, if somebody's a pro level, whatever they're doing, it's working for them. That's how they got to the pro level. So it's got to be good somewhere.
Yeah. You don't just get to pro level just by, you know, just showing up one day. Like,
yeah, it's genetics, drugs,
arsenal. Yeah.
All the bullshit people want to say gets you there. It's not what gets you there. It's hard work, and it's education. It's learning your body. And like, I've never met, I've met some top level lifters that might not be the smartest dudes out in society, but when it comes to training, they're pretty damn smart and they know their bodies.
Yeah, they know how to get strong.
And if I talk to people that see everything the way I see it, what am I going to learn?
Right.
Like, I want to talk to people that see things differently, and I want to look at and see what they do. And like AJ, I love AJ. So I've been talking to AJ, and every now and then they text him, Mario, and I know you're coming back. What are you doing? How are you training? What's going on? What's your split?
Yeah.
Because I'm curious to see what he's doing and what he's changing, and especially from hitting, what did he hit? 28. He had the highest 308 total at one time, I think.
Yeah,
it's like 28 something.
2850, I think. 2860.
Yeah. So like I'm curious what he looks back and sees and how he changes, and I'm always asking him questions. Like I think I asked him the question. I'm like, do you still feel like was everything you did to reach that total? Was there anything different you could have done?
Yeah.
I go, I know what you were like. I know your relationships. I know the things that were going on in your life at that time. Do you feel like maybe you went too far? And if you would have went a little less,
right,
would that have increased your strength? Or do you think you need to go to that place to be that strong?
Yeah.
And that's still a question I ponder a lot, because I'm going to say for me, I think if I would have just backed off a little bit, I would have done way better.
Oh yeah. I know for a fact that guys like me, Greg, and AJ left weight on the platform, a lot of weight. Because like for like me and Greg, like my central nervous system was always jacked going into a meet, because we were it was always, tons of band tension or tons of chain and just all this shit, to where like driving a car after a Friday squat session, I'd get lost, like trying to find my exit, or my hands would fall asleep, or you know what I mean? Just crazy shit. Like, like looking back, that's not normal stuff.
Yeah, no, it's not normal. And like there's systems in our body that were just shot. Yeah. Just completely shot. So do you feel like, because like my experiences with depression, and that's definitely, I think I just said, that's one of my passions, is to help people not go to the places I went, because it was dark and I still don't know how the fuck I'm alive, but somehow I got through it. Do you feel like you pushed so hard you might have put yourself, were you dealing with any depression or like mental shit from pushing that hard?
Yeah, I'm completely fucked up. I'm on like 4 or 5 psych meds. So yeah, I'm fucked up. So I know all about mental health and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then because I was thinking the other day too, I'm like, okay, so if we're pushing ourselves into depression, we're making bad choices.
Yeah.
And I look back at, I got some funny fucking arguments. Like we were in the gym one time and we're doing speed work. And I'm like, yeah, that one looked good. And Ethan's like, dude, that looked like shit and it was slow as crap, man. I go, yeah, watch this next one. And like, so I do it. And every time I'm like, yeah, that's it. And he's like, dude, it's horrible. Do you want me to video it? Like, that looks like shit. And I'm like, fine. And I'm just getting madder and madder. And eventually I go to deadlift and I'm pulling deadlifts and they're like, screw you, dude, we're done. And they're on the other side of the gym. And I'm like, how'd that look? And they're like, it looks like shit. And I'm like, fucking son of a... Oh! And I keep pulling. And eventually I go to take a piss and they strip the bar and put the bar away. And I come back out and I'm like, you goddamn motherfucker. And I go get the bar and I come back out. And I do this stupid, crazy ass long session. And at the time, in my mind, that shit made sense. Like that seemed 100% logical to me to keep pushing till I got the one I wanted. Even though I was so spent at that time, there's no way I was going to get a good lift.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, okay, if we're pushing ourselves to this limit, that we're actually making poor decisions and more poor decisions, like it's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
Where it's like if we would have just taken a week off, got shit right, maybe that would have got us back on the right track.
Yeah, but that's not what adrenaline junkies do.
It's not what we do, but let me ask you this. This is how I convinced myself to start backing off. I went, all right, Chad, you think you're a badass. You think you can train so hard and you think you train so tough. If you're so fucking tough, how come you got to be in the gym 5 or 6 days a week for 3 hours? Like, if you're so fucking tough, why can't you take a day off?
Yeah.
And that kind of made me go, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And that was how I was able to start backing off some. But even then, I couldn't. I look back now, and I think my best total was 27:33, and I did that with a torn hamstring.
Yeah. And
I went, that's it, dude. Because at the time, I think Andy took the all-time total at 28:15 or something.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, I'm right there. All I got to do is put it together. I go, so what do I need to do? And the first thing that popped into my head, work harder. So I turned it up. another notch.
Yeah.
And fucking blew myself. Like the next meet, I was going to open my squat with 1200, and I went out and picked it up, and I'm like, no, rack it. And my partner's like, what the fuck's going on, man? And I go, for the first time in my life, I don't feel like fucking squatting. And I go, I'm not going to risk all of these people with 1,200 pounds when I don't feel like squatting.
Yeah.
And that was like that was kind of the time where I'd be sitting at home with a gun to my head in tears.
Yeah.
And an alarm would go off, and I'm like, got to go train. And then I would go train, and I would come home and be right back going, how do I'm only thinking of one way to stop this pain that's going on in my head.
Yeah.
And so I like just pushed myself. And what I should have done is went, Chad, you're right there. Why don't you take 2 weeks off and then get back to it? And I think if that would have happened, it would have changed everything.
Yeah, but we can all do about ifs and buts and candy and nuts. But
yeah,
what happened is what happened, and that's what helped shape us and make us who we are. Like.
Well, that's the caveat. Is it's like doing that made me tough as hell. So was that good?
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't look back on it as what if. I look back on it as, listen, I'm making my living training people.
Yeah.
I want to have as much knowledge and be as smart as I can. One of the ways I can do that is look back over my career and go, hey, what did I need to do?
Yeah.
So, if I run into somebody, even if I've been talking to AJ and it's like, dude, AJ starts putting up these huge numbers and he starts training like a madman. Like, could I be the guy that go, AJ, just pull back just a little bit and you got it? Which would be an insanely hard thing to do with AJ.
Listen.
But
I tried to tell him about his hip. He needs to get that shit fixed or whatever in his adductor because he leans on the one side. He ain't gonna listen. So I gave him a bunch of accessory workouts.
Yeah,
he'll do those, but he ain't gonna back off.
Yeah,
so.
But I'm a hard head, dude. That's like a challenge to me. I'm like, who can be more hard headed? I think I can. I'm gonna keep trying until I reach you.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll work. But yeah, like
you're just sinking it deeper into my hard-headed brain that I got to figure out how to do it. Damn it! Now Luke's challenging me too.
Because I've went down a bunch of training paths and whatever, and I try to give my clients the best path as opposed to doing the stuff. I try not to give them advice of stuff that I've tried that didn't work.
Yeah.
So, like I was a pretty good guinea pig at the time that we were at Westside, so we trained. We did all sorts of different stuff, tried different things, and so I kind of know what works and what doesn't.
Right.
So I kind of threw out what doesn't, and I try to give them everything that does. So
yeah, like basically, we're trying to help you avoid the mistakes that we made, so you can get there quicker.
Right.
And that's an interesting point though, because there was kind of these different waves in Westside. And you kind of came in, I think you were coming up and doing really good right when I was kind of coming out around 06, 07, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And I know that you guys in AJ, you guys started doing different stuff than the standard template that I always knew Westside to have.
Yeah.
Because I trained conjugate my whole career. I love fucking conjugate.
Yeah.
But I know you guys started tweaking some stuff and doing different stuff. And I mean, what was that like being at Westside and you guys were trying all those different things?
It was crazy, man. I mean, it turned into a pissing contest 3 days a week. And then some of us didn't speed bench together, but 3 days a week, it didn't matter. Like on Fridays, we would start out doing like 4 or 5 sets of standard wave, and then we just start working up plate, and how many doubles you can do with as many plates as you can do with just different bars and different band tension every Friday. And then we'd work up heavy on the deadlift, we did sets. We'd probably do like 7 to 12 singles to triples on deadlifts, but yeah.
So what, how do I want to phrase this question? Looking back now, how do you, these are such tough questions because you were super successful. So what you did worked.
Yeah, but I think I would have been more successful if I would have pulled the brakes a little bit. If I wouldn't have been trying to to keep up with Greg or to try and be the badass in there every Friday. You know, not taking, because, you know, it didn't matter what you weighed. You know, you either brought it or you didn't. There was no weight classes in Westside. You know what I mean? And so, like, if I would have just pumped the brakes and went back a little bit and actually did the waves and stuff like that. But at the time, man, that's what the best guy was doing. That's what we were all doing. And it made us strong as hell. So, like, you know, it's kind of like, well, yeah, I would have changed it, but I got strong too. So,
yeah.
It's
so interesting. And then like right now, do you have any groups or do you train a lot of individuals or?
I have 2 groups and then I do a couple of individuals in between.
So like with your groups, how do you try to differentiate it from what Westside was?
Well, I stick to the standard waves
okay.
of what we did. So say like squats and stuff, we go off the standard percentages and stuff that got, you know, with the waves and the sets and stuff like that. How I differentiate from Westside, I'm always trying different theories with like a lot of more like bodybuilding movements, you know, like that's something I don't think I was talked about a lot in Westside. It was like we did a lot of sets of like, you know, 30, 40 reps, stuff to really blow the muscle up. And so I like stuff like that, you know.
Like on your accessory, like the accessory stuff.
Yeah, accessory works. Yeah. But I do like the template of a 1 to 3 max on Monday for lower, max lower, and then the same thing on Wednesday, and then speed on Friday and Saturday. So we do keep the 4-week template of Westside. I do keep that for the clients, you know, and that seems to work. You know, everybody's getting really strong. You know, like.
So I think I don't remember who I was talking to, but they said at Westside now they're doing like 5x5 on the speed work, or doing sets of 5 instead of the.
Yeah, that was only because guys were out of shape. That's the only reason why they switched to 5x5. Was a lot of the guys were running like a group of 10 people to squat.
Oh, Jesus,
to do like 10 sets of 2 or whatever. Like it was too many people, and so Lou was like, "Well, you're going to take that long. We're going to do 5 sets of 5, you know, and try to get it done faster." So,
yeah.
Back when I was coming up through there, we keep a group of 2 to 3 people. You know, there's never more than that, maybe 4 at top, as long as we're flying through. Like a lot of people don't realize, unless they've been in there, is like we were in really good shape. We'd get done squatting in about 10 minutes. As to where like we'd get visitors all the time and they'd be like badasses and they'd be huffing and puffing after like set 4, you know, like because their conditioning wasn't.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's one where people didn't understand how fast speed work is supposed to go. And I mean, not just the rep, like you need to get the fuck back under the bar and go.
Right.
And
that's the best way you can get conditioned without having to do a whole bunch of cardio stuff, you know, like just push your rest time down.
I just had one of my online clients came to visit and I'm like, dude, I'm putting you through a dynamic squat tonight. And right before I got on here, and I got my stopwatch out, and I'm like, dude, get under the bar again, get under, and he's just dying, sweating, and I'm like, see, this is how you're supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
Because I think people do miss that. They're like, oh, well, it's fast. And it's like, yeah, but part of it is the conditioning too.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to, you have to be in shape to want to lift weights. To lift those heavy weights, you got to be in good shape.
And I think that's I think I was watching one of your interviews. I don't know if you're online training, but you said you had some interest in it. And like one of the things with online training clients is I'm finding ways to get better at it, but I was very against it for a long time because I'm like, you can't do it. And even I did a podcast with Tate. And I'm like, dude, don't even call it online coaching. Call it online programming. I mean, it's not fucking coaching. And I'm finding some ways to review videos for them where they can see me and the video and actually go over their technique and stuff. But there's still that point of like being there and going, no, this is how I want you to do that. This is the intent that I want when I'm screaming at them to stay tight and to brace. You know, and running them through a dynamic session where it's almost like with all my online clients, I'm like, you need to figure out a way to come out and let me run you through a couple sessions almost.
Yeah. That's kind of how I do it. I love online because the fact that you can help more clients without having to, you know, like, so I have 5 clients right now online So like I could help 5 people without having to be in the gym with them, and
Right.
and they send me all their videos. And yeah, it's not the same as being in person. I do love being in person, but if you've seen enough people lifting, you can pick it out on video, and teach them where this and that. And that's where accessory work comes in real good too, because, like that, that's where you find their weak points is on squats and whatever. And, mid backs usually seems to be a big one. A lot of people, for whatever reason, fold over in the squats and a lot of mid back weakness, not enough rows and barbell rows and dumbbell rows, stuff like that. Reverse hypers, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm always telling my clients, like, they tend to want to send me just the main movements. And I'm like, no, I need to see videos
Right.
of every single thing you do.
Right.
And it's like, dude, you're doing a fucking pull down wrong. Like, do it like this.
Right.
And
Exactly.
it's amazing to watch and see how poor just the standard exercise movements are. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if I'm programming you this exercise, it's to train these weak muscle groups. If you're doing it wrong, it's not achieving what I want.
Right. Yeah. That was the whole, like we were talking about earlier. It's hard for people to let the ego go on the accessories, and they just want to throw it. And I always try to coach that, there's a difference between doing it and feeling it, and making the muscle work, doing it right. And, yeah, you might have to go down 30 pounds or whatever on a dumbbell or whatever it is, but you're doing it right. And you're going to build that, that strength instead of just throwing it around and, just because it's heavier weight. I actually build the muscle,
I have a theory on that because I'm old, and when I started training, I had books and magazines.
Yeah.
So when I started training in my basement, I would read the book, and then like, oh, here's the beginning of the row, a picture. Here's a picture of the end of the row.
Yeah.
And then I would have to read it and go, okay, well, this is the muscle that they're telling me I need to work. So if I do this exercise and I'm not feeling this muscle, then I'm obviously not doing it right. Where I think in the modern age, people see a picture of somebody doing something and they go, oh, that's how it's done.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't even know what they're working. Like they don't even know why they're doing that exercise.
Right.
And I think that's a miscommunication where, again, a good online coach who's actually getting videos and going, no, you're performing that wrong. You need to do this.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, I understand wanting to go heavy, but if you're not feeling it in the right place, it's defeating the purpose.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that call themselves coaches out there, and they're making good money. And it's sad. I've been to a few meets, and like you see some of the lifters' technique, and you're like, fuck, these people are paying somebody that doesn't give a fuck. Like, you have to care. And like, for me personally, like, I care with who I work with, like I want them to do as good as possible. I love seeing their mental strength, their confidence grow as much as their physical abilities, and you just, if you're going to do that, you got to give a fuck or you're going to get somebody hurt,
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that mental, again, it's like being in a room and with some of the strongest guys in the world, like the biggest commonality is how strong they are mentally.
Yes, the mindset.
And I think that comes as a coach. I mean, there's times where you got to kind of beat them up and break them down. There's times where you got to build them up. And I think that's a little bit of an art form. Yeah. I'm probably on the harsh side sometimes, but luckily I'm pretty good at reading people, and I can read the people that I can be a little more harsh with and the ones I need to be a little softer with.
I let them all know, though, I ain't going to blow. If you're looking for sunshine and kisses and hugs and butterflies, you're barking up the wrong tree. Like, I'm going to tell how it is. But that's what makes you a good coach. Like Bobby Knight wasn't a good coach because he fucking gave everybody lollipops and candy canes, He picked out where everybody was weak at, and you know what I mean? Like, that's what makes a good coach.
Yeah, that's the person that shows you the care. Like, the person I want hanging out with me is the person that goes, dude, you got something in your teeth.
Yeah.
Not the person that goes, well, I don't want to tell him he has something in his teeth because that might hurt his feelings. Like, fuck that. Tell me. I need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of athletes out there that kind of want that sugar coating. They want to be told they're doing a good job. And it's like, well, I will.
Yeah.
And like my clients, it's funny to watch my clients when I say something positive because I'm like, all right, that one's okay. And they're like, holy shit, dude, Chad said that was okay. And they're all excited about it. And I'm like, good. So if I ever give you, damn, that was a good, that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to find ways to get everybody stronger. So like I'm picking apart weaknesses and in ways to build those up, whatever those weak points might be. And I just want the person I'm working with to be strong all the way around, inside and out, because, like a lot of, like you've talked about, mental health is something that is finally being talked about, especially for men. And a lot of people go down that path, and so lifting weights, it always helped build confidence in me. And it's good to see that confidence grow in other people who, I think deep down we all lift weights because I don't know about your past, but like at one point we were super weak and vulnerable or whatever, and we're never going to be that way again, whatever it was. And that's what keeps us going to the gym and wanting to be strong, because if somebody comes and takes us down, at least they know they're going to come down with a fight this time, not going to come down as a weak person as we once were as our childhood or whatever has happened to somebody.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I tell people I originally got into lifting for sports, which is true.
Yeah.
Because I really started lifting when I didn't make the first string in the freshman football team. And the only thing I could think is I got to get bigger, stronger, faster. How do I do that? Lift weights.
Yeah.
But I mean, I grew up being a kid that was chubby at times. I had horrible problems with my feet, and I had to wear these fucked up shoes, and I was really pigeon-toed. And it was like I would fight all the time. And it was like, I'm just going to get bigger, meaner, badder, and and I don't have to deal with nobody. And if they do, I'll just punch them in the fucking face.
Right.
And so that's where the journey started.
Yeah.
And like kind of with you, one of the things I want to take people like that and make them stronger.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get to the point. I don't know if you got to this point, but it's kind of like when you break your first world record. Like I kind of broke it, and I don't know what I expected. I don't think I expected anything, but I kind of look around and go, My first thought is, I think I can do more. Yeah. And then my second thought is, well, like nothing changed.
Right.
Didn't change how I feel.
I think we don't appreciate the journey as much. We want to get there. We want to get there, and we don't appreciate what it takes to get there, because when we look back, it's all about that journey and all those training partners that help get you there and all that shit, and then we get there and it's not as big as we make it up in our head, but like it's that path, man, that journey of shit went wrong. Like, you couldn't pay bills or whatever the fuck, something went wrong during this, but you still pushed through, and, and your boys were there and you knew they were going to be there, and, and the shit happened, and it's all about that. That is more important than any world record in my eyes, than anything outside of it. You had your boys with you or whatever, a crew with you or whatever it was, and it was that path or your training path, whatever, like.
I think it's kind of like, I think there's a realization at that point where you kind of go, wait a minute, it's not about being big and strong, but it's about being strong mentally. And it's about, like, one of my favorite things is when I get together with my old teammates and telling stories. And I'm not telling a story about breaking that world record. I'm telling stories about training and the shit we all dealt with together and the funny crap that happened and the dumb shit we all did. And it's the journey. It's the journey that went through there. And then I think that's also why I was telling somebody the other day, I'm like, the meanest, baddest dudes I've ever known. Wait a minute, I said that wrong. The nicest guys I've ever known are the biggest, baddest dudes.
Yeah.
Like I was fortunate to work with some MMA strength coaches and met some really top MMA guys.
Yeah.
Cool as shit. All the strongest guys I've ever known, the vast majority of them are super nice guys. They're super mellow. Yeah. I go, it's the guys that are kind of strong that are dickheads. I go, it's like the guys that reach that level, they kind of realize that, you know what? Fuck all the bullshit, man. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I got here, doesn't change who I am. Right. So why not just be a cool guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's all with that journey. And that's like when I'm coaching people, and I have a couple, I train a little bit of everybody. I actually have another kidney transplant girl who came to me and like she couldn't hardly get off she sat on the bench when she first came and she couldn't hardly get up. She couldn't hardly walk down a curb by herself.
Yeah.
And she just went to Disneyland. So I'm like just completely changing her life, which is awesome. I have a couple clients, a couple that's 75 years old. And then I have my power lifters. So I have all these different wide variety of people, and I just want to help everybody.
Yeah.
But like my power lifters, it's like I try to kind of put tidbits here and there of like, dude, enjoy the journey. It doesn't, if you're making a PR, that's a PR. That's a good thing. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And trying to get him to enjoy it a little more than I did, because the better I got, the more focused I got.
Right.
And it's like you said, it's looking back now going, whoa, wait a minute. I actually had a pretty good time doing that,
Yeah. I mean, like the training and the journey is some of the stuff that kept you alive. It was something to live for, and it was just, every workout was something crazy or whatever, a thrill. For me, I was lucky enough to see Louis 4 times a week for 15 years, like that crazy motherfucker. Every day was something crazy with him, like there's so many crazy things he did. It was just like, you'd kind of look and you'd be like, did that really happen? Like the time he would snort horse limit, like, to train, to squat, to keep up and squat with us. Like, it's not normal, but it's like, fuck, he did. We were at the time, we're all like, yeah, fuck it, do what you got to do, man. Train.
That's so funny. For some reason, people always ask me, like, what was training at Westside like? I'm like, dude, I never actually trained at Westside.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would go to Westside. I would visit Louis. I love talking to Louis at meets. Louis made me laugh so hard. Like, and I always got in. Every time I talked to him, I left with something to think about and some information. Right. And I like the fact that he would ask me stuff, Yeah. I go, but I never actually trained there. Like, I don't know why everybody thinks I trained there. But yeah, Louis was awesome. I mean, I got so many characters. I did a post on my Instagram the other day, and I go, I hope people don't think that all this knowledge is mine, because it's not.
Right.
Like, everything I know is a conglomeration of so many people that led to me reaching the level I did. It wasn't me.
Right.
It was a bunch of other people. Like,
right.
I did the work, but every time I got better, and every time I met a better athlete, and every time I did a world meet and got to talk to other world athletes, like, I always left with a little more information.
Yeah. No one makes it to the top alone.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the journey, to go, hey, I got to sit down with Andy Bolton, and, I learned this little tip about deadlifting.
Right.
Or I got to sit down with Paul Childress, and he told me this thing about squatting. And, I got to hang out with Louis, and I learned this from Louis, so I'm going to go try this.
Yeah.
Like, those are cool stories to me, and I love hearing other people talk about stuff like that, and going back and thinking about that. And yeah, it's the journey. The journey was so cool, and I want other people to be able to see that.
Yeah.
But that kind of brings me back to what we talked about before we actually started the podcast, and like, powerlifting has definitely changed.
Yes.
And I know people are still going to get good journeys, but there's so much crap, and I've talked to some current top level lifters, and it's like, sometimes they get so wrapped up in social media and all the bullshit going on. Yeah. And I'm like, don't forget your core. Don't forget why you're doing this. Don't forget, like, all the shit you see on the internet. When you go to the competition, do you see it? No. I went to the women's pro-am, the last women's pro-am, and I'm like, dude, these girls are awesome, man. They're all getting along. They're all talking. Like, you can just, like, here's these girls and here's these girls. And like, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
But you go back and look at social media and the 9,000 federations, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, don't let all that crap cloud the greatness of the sport.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's sad about the internet, is like, it's given no one, everything's instant gratification, like, and so it's for good or bad, like, a lot of people, they can be on the internet and be someone that they wouldn't be in real life. They can bash you and this and that, knowing they wouldn't say that stuff in real life. So that it's made everybody tough in the internet. Yeah. So I don't like that. But yeah, I mean, like, even at Nationals this past weekend, a lot of camaraderie. Everybody was rooting for everybody. And it was great to see. Guys just worrying about getting stronger and picking each other's brains about, well, this worked and this worked, and there was a few guys that I was able to help out with, like, trying to talk to them about, like, how to one guy in particular, how to help him lock out his deadlifts more and stuff like that, and what I did personally to help me, get there. And, and so, and it was cool, man. I mean, it was a cool experience, but powerlifting's in a weird state. That's for sure. I don't quite understand it right now, but maybe it's not for me to understand. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I like to just think about shit. So I'll think about, like, what's going on with powerlifting, and how can how can he get back on what I consider a better track? If that's if the track that I think is even a right track. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
You know, because
I love watching the women, like the women's pro-am. I think it's awesome because, like, you know, we've never seen a woman squat 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, that was
it's coming, and we haven't seen someone deadlift 700 yet.
Yeah,
and, you know, and it's coming. You know, these things, and you know, for men, it's already happened. You know, like we've seen guys do this, or guys have done this, and you know, so I think it's really cool seeing chicks being able to being like, yeah, we're here and we're fucking strong too. You know, like
it was. The women's pro-am was. Well, I mean, even when I was a kid, I liked on my track team. I was the captain of my track team. Yeah, and I led stretching and I led warm ups. And dude, I always liked the fact that chicks are out doing sports. I don't know why, I just did.
Yeah.
And then so in powerlifting, and girls getting so excited when they find out they can be strong. Yeah. And they find out they can do strong stuff, and there's so much excitement in it. It's awesome. Yeah. And then I was watching that meet, and I'm just like, holy shit, man. These girls are strong, man. Yeah. Like unbelievable. And I kind of think that might be that they might be taking the lead in the sport, you know.
More power to them. I think they should, man.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, women should be right up there. I think it's cool as fuck watching women, you know, do something that's never been done before. You know, like. So I'm all for it. I think it's cool.
Like watching Leah Reichman squat, I'm like, holy crap. Yeah. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, she broke Becca's Swanson's all-time record, and that record's been on the record for a long time. Yeah, Leah was strong.
I gotta try and get Leah on. I'd like to sit down and talk with her too. She's so funny too. She's so nice. Again, it's funny to see these people that are so strong.
Yeah,
and so cool. And even the dude. I always thought the dudes were funny. Did you ever train with Mike Ruggiero?
No, I didn't get a chance to train him, but I know Mike real well.
Mike's
a great dude.
He, like, when I first saw him, I'm not really scared of people. I never have been. But I'm willing to admit, like, there's some dudes, and I'm like, dude, that dude's a scary looking dude. I bet he scares people. And, like, the first time I met Mike's so fucking big.
Yeah.
And it turns out I met him at 05 Detroit, APF Seniors in Detroit or something like that.
Yeah.
And like I saw Mike and I'm like, holy fuck, he's fucking huge.
Yeah.
And I ended up writing, like in my recap article, I ended up writing in there, and I'm like, dude, and I met Mike Ruggiero, and this is the closest person I've ever met to a shaved gorilla. And I'm like, his head literally goes from his head into his back. There's no curvature like there is in a normal person. It's all muscle.
Yeah.
And I guess he read it, and then he called Dave, and he's like, Dave, I need to talk to Chad. And so he calls me up, and he's like, dude, Chad, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me. Like, thank you very much. That was awesome. And I'm like, Mike, dude, when I saw you, I'm like, fuck, I want to be that big. And he goes, no. He goes, I remember I was sitting down when you walked into the warm-up room, and I went, holy shit, he's huge. But it's funny to see these strong guys that are so scary looking to most people. And they're great guys. They're just great guys. Like, dude, they're
Mike's
awesome.
a great dude. Yeah, he really is.
I feel fortunate to lift it when I did.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like there was just so many characters and so many people. And I had so much fun. It was.
Yeah.
At some point, I'd like to get my old teammates on this podcast and just tell stories about.
Fuck yeah.
Like, I remember I took one of my guys, he qualified for APF Seniors when it was in Vegas, and he screwed himself because he went down there and he's just like, oh my God, there's Chuck Vogelpool, there's Steve Goggins, there's Ed Cohn, and he was just so stunned.
Yeah,
he lived it like shit.
Yeah,
but it was like there's just so many characters and so many guys, and I don't even know. Right now there are some young guys that impress the crap out of me. I mean, there's some young raw lifters that I'm like, these dudes are fucking strong, man.
Yeah. Dan Grigsby. I mean, what's he deadlift? Like 1055 or something?
Yeah, it's insane. That's insane.
Something just ridiculous. Yeah.
And I'm like, but I don't know that they're characters like back in the day.
I don't know. I mean, I'd say someone like Dan's probably wired different.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to say for sure. I mean, he's to be that strong, you got to be wired a little different.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But even that is it getting out. You know, like you don't. I don't know. That's an interesting. With social media, you'd think all the stories and get out, but I mean, I remember hearing so many stories about Chuck.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't wait to meet Chuck because I like crazy people.
Yeah.
And I heard all these stories. And then when I first met Chuck, I'm like, damn, Chuck's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like that was a really cool conversation.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know why people
Chuck's,
think he's so crazy. He seems normal to me, but that's probably because I'm fucking crazy.
Yeah. Well, you didn't train with him either.
Oh no, I've heard the story. I heard he's like, and I try to tell people that, like, I've heard people like, dude, I like Chuck. I'm going to train like Chuck. And I go, dude, you're not Chuck.
Yeah.
Chuck's a different breed, man.
Yeah.
Like
Chuck's.
how much he could take and still keep going was, I couldn't train with him. He would have wore me into the ground. I do not like his volume and his recovery. It would have killed me. There's no way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how all of us trained, kind of like that, though.
Yeah.
That's how it was. And I trained with Chuck later on after my well, I trained with him in the beginning at like 07 for like 7 weeks before he left. And then back 2015 when he came back to Westside, I trained with him for about 3 or 4 years until I got sick. And then, he was, man, you better bring it. That's for sure. And he was all about conditioning.
It's kind of funny too, because you had Westside and then you had what was the other one? Huge Iron for a while.
Big Iron.
I don't see gyms like that anymore.
No.
But who did you start powerlifting with? I can't. The coach that you were driving like an hour.
Gabe Daniels.
Yes.
Yeah. In Indiana.
Yeah. And
strong.
I don't hear about people doing that anymore.
No, they complain to go down 10 minutes to train at the gym. I would drive an hour. It was about an hour and a half. I don't know. I went pretty fast. Indiana, you could go a little faster than Ohio. And I'd get there about 45 minutes to an hour and train, and then I'd drive back and then get ready for work and go to work.
Yeah.
You know, four times a week.
I don't hear that many people doing that kind of stuff anymore. And that's dedication. That's a lot of gas, a lot of money, a lot of time, you're dedicating to what you want to do.
At the time, though, you don't think about that because the bigger picture is getting stronger, and that's all I gave a fuck about. Was trying to be one of the best in the world, and so it didn't matter if I was going to drive 3 hours one way. I would have made it happen.
But I think that's that dedication and that devotion that drive people to be that successful and to get that strong.
Yeah. What I've found the people that were really good lifters that had that mental drive, once they turn over to coaching, it seems like they're pretty successful coaches because they have that mental drive, to be a good coach. And that's just, from what I've seen is they instill some sort of mental toughness into their clients too. And and again, I think that's what separates a good coach from, is that mental drive. Your coach has got to want it for you, you've got to, as a coach, you've got to want to see your client squat 600 pounds or whatever, I think you got to want it more than they do,
No, I agree with that. I think that's true. And I think that makes fewer really great coaches, because I think there's fewer people that actually want to do that,
right? Or
take it to that level and really go, here's what we're going to do. We're going to push this far.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, man. This has been great talking to you. I would like to talk more about training, but we'll try and do that another time, because I'm interested. I'm fascinated. With the numbers that you've done, I have so much respect for everything you achieved.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And just it's more knowledge. It's dude, what can I learn from Luke now? Because and then I find it really interesting, probably because I'm taking the same journey of going from a top athlete to coaching. and the aspects of that, which we kind of talked about today, and how you take that, and then what you go, well, here, what's changed? Like what could I change now from what I did to make it even better and keep expanding it? And like, I mean, that's really what strength is all about, is it's about learning, and the next generation is going to get stronger because they're going to take the knowledge you had, get where you're going faster.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to be coached by you online or in person, where are you at now? Like if
I'm in Ohio, Hilliard, Ohio, Columbus.
Oh, so you're still
Ohio.
in Columbus. Okay. So people could, if anybody in that area could, are this truly dedicated within a couple hours around that area?
Columbus is a big city. We got to live in Columbus. That works.
Like, how can people get a hold of you and reach you?
They can do it through Instagram. I also have a website. It's called edwards-strong.com. And I'm looking to take some more clients on. So
good. And I think I saw an interview with you where you were thinking about, you wanted to write some manuals or something. Are you still looking into that, or have you went to that?
You talking about programs? Just programs?
Yeah.
Yeah. I that's on the website too. Yeah.
Okay.
If people don't want like individual coaching, I do offer like 12-week programs where it's just straight, training with no one-on-one contact. But for like online coaching, more 24 hours access to me and all that, current training. But yeah, I do offer programs, just straight programs if they don't want the coaching too.
I haven't got it up on my website, but I offer like consultations, like an hour phone call, or if people want like reviews of their lifts, do you offer that kind of stuff too?
Well, yes, before anybody becomes a client, we do Zoom calls.
Okay.
And, we go through everything on that. As far as like video review, if somebody wanted me to send their stuff, I'll view a few of them, but that's kind of what I get paid to do. So
yeah, no, I mean, like I'll charge somebody. They're like, hey, can you review my squats? And I'm like, okay, but it's going to cost this much.
Yeah.
Even if they're not a client or nothing, but that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Any way somebody wants to get better and get stronger, for sure.
Yeah.
Feel free to contact me. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right, man. I'm going to hit my outro here. And, dude, thanks again for coming on. It was awesome. I actually, if you want to come on again some other time, I would love that too. I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about, especially.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure we got a lot more training we could talk about for sure.
Yeah, especially as we both keep going down this coaching journey.
That's right.
All right, man. So until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast. For more information, please visit couragebarbell.com. Until next time.